A hypothesis is defined as a scientific guess. It may or may not be based on factual knowledge. The hypothesis is based on the objectives of the study. It is a guide to the experimental design. Usually, hypotheses are framed using the null and alternative hypotheses. Thus, there is no association between the exposure and disease of interest, or there is an association between the exposure and disease of interest. But there are other types or ways of framing a hypothesis. One is to suggest possible events. For example, the rate of survival will increase after surgery. This moves away from the simple dichotomy of yes or no for an exposure or disease association to the estimated magnitude of effect irrespective of whether it differs from the null hypothesis. Number 2. Suggest relationship between specific exposure or treatment and outcome. For example, a high cholesterol intake is associated with the development of coronary heart disease. Suggest cause-effect relationship or use the if-then statement. For example, cigarette smoking is a cause of lung cancer, or if a person is a smoker, then he has a higher risk of getting lung cancer. Hypotheses can be one-sided or two-sided. A two-sided hypothesis is an alternative hypothesis which is not bounded from above or from below, as opposed to a one-sided hypothesis which is always bounded from either above or below. In fact, a two-sided hypothesis is nothing more than the union of two one-sided hypotheses. An example of one-sided hypothesis is Helicobacter pylori infection is associated with increased risk of stomach ulcer. An example of a two-sided hypothesis is weightlifting is associated with risk of lower back injury. In framing hypotheses, make sure that you state the exposure or treatment to be measured as well as the outcome as specifically as possible. Let us look at this example. Eating junk food is associated with the development of cancer. This is an example of a poor hypothesis. The human papilloma virus or HPV subtype 16 is associated with the development of cervical cancer. This is an example of a good hypothesis. Once you identify a hypothesis, you must formally test it in your research study. The study should follow a specific plan or protocol called the study design. Study designs direct how the investigation is conducted and allows for the translation of a conceptual hypothesis into an operational one. Remember, it is normal if your result is not the same as your hypothesis. According to Newton, disappointment is when a beautiful hypothesis is destroyed by an ugly fact. After identifying a research topic, you are now ready to formulate or write your research problem based on it. In making a statement of the problem, you must determine the main goal or general objective of your study. Also, in the statement of the problem, the factors or variables to be observed and measured must be identified or specified. Since your hypothesis is based on the objectives of the study, the variables or factors to be observed should also be included in the hypothesis. Let us look at some examples. For each topic, a research question is provided. It is followed by three forms of hypothesis: the null, alternative, and if-then form. The first topic is high school sports and character. A possible research problem is: what is the effect of involvement in high school sports in an individual's character? Hypotheses are: high school sports build character, high school sports do not build character, If a student got involved into high school sports, his or her character will improve. The second topic is reorganization of workplace and employees' reaction. The research problem is the effect of changes in the workplace on employees. These are changes in workspace affect employees' reaction. Changes in workspace do not affect employees' reaction. If the workspace will undergo changes, the employees will be satisfied. The last topic is room temperature and gamers. Problem is, what is the effect of room temperature on game performance? These are, temperature affects a gamer's performance. Temperature does not affect a gamer's performance. If the room temperature is between 25 to 28 degrees Celsius, gamers will improve their performance.